Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming. My name is Quinn Mattingly. I'm the general manager. Hi, everyone. For Again, thank you all for coming. This is KCSC's 60th anniversary. So in honor of that, we have these amazing, spectacular, successful, awesome alumni who took the time out of their weekends to come up to Chico from near and far and be here, to help out the community, Chico State. I will send this off to Liz MacDonald. She's going to be our moderator, and feel free, if you have any questions afterwards, we have this room until 3, so stick around, meet some people, make some connections. Thank you.
My name is Liz MacDonald, and I was at KCSC from 1980 to 1984, and I'm very proud to say every single one of these people I knew back then, to the point where they also influenced my career. So I hope you will pay attention today, because everything they have to say really help you, because they also helped me. One thing that all of us have in common is passion. And it was passion for music and passion for what we were doing at KCSC that actually created our careers. I went on to be at KISW in Seattle during the height of grunge. I had a great time, and I loved my career. I left my career when the FCC deregulated, and we'll also talk about when you have downtimes and what do you do and how do you struggle or get through that. We want to give you a realistic picture. We want to give you something that can be constructive and helpful and developmental for you, because we were just like you, sitting exactly where you are, wondering how are we going to do it, what are we going to do. So what I've asked the panelists to start out with today is what years they were at KCSC, and obviously introduce themselves and tell us what it is that they are doing now. So we'll go ahead and start with Adele.
My name's Adele Raquel. That was my on-air name. It's also my real name. I was there at 75 through 81, promotions director, PSA director, on-air. I'm currently a superintendent and a principal at a high school and an elementary school in Northern California mountains. But I did work in the industry after I got out. My very first job, and I also used to work at PACE. It used to be known as the Performing Arts and Cultural Affairs Committee, and we co-produced a lot of concerts. And that was my first job after radio, is going and working for the Stone family in San Francisco.
Ben?
My name is Robert Benjamin, and it's also Ben, and it's Ben Sustanovich, and Dick Havoc, Lance Boyle, I think I've been known by. Fritz Creed was another one. I started at KCSC in 1977, and I walked into Ayers Hall and probably never really walked out. And in this room here, I think was a PACE meeting, and I met one of the most talented people I ever met, and married her about 10 years later. So right there, KCSC is responsible for my life. And went on, did radio, went to a lot of different places, and when I figured radio was really kind of over and I was going to do something else, something popped up, and it was an opportunity to come back to Chico and work with 4 radio stations. So that's what I'm currently doing now.
Okay. Roland?
I'm Roland West. I was here, to the best of my recollection, 1980, 81, 82. Ended up going down to Long Beach to finish up my school and got into radio in Long Beach at KNAC. I worked there for about 3 years, doing afternoons, on-air, music director, and assistant program director. They went through a merge and became probably more famously known as Pure Rock KNAC, and then I ended up over at KROQ in Los Angeles for a year, doing everything I could behind a microphone there. And in 88 rather, I moved up to San Francisco and spent almost 10 years at Live 105, doing midday music director and assistant program director there. Another merge came along, and granted it was a 10-year run there, so I always feel I've been incredibly lucky in this business. I ended up joining the record side. I've been working for Def Jam Island Def Jam Records for the last 13 years doing marketing and promotion based out of San Francisco in Northern California. I cover the Pacific Northwest. And KCSC, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for KCSC, if I hadn't been dragged into a friend of mine's overnight radio show, watch what he did. 2 hours into it, he was falling asleep, and I said, hey, I'd love to do that. I don't even want to talk, I just want to do what you're doing with the records, put them all together. It's fantastic. Changed my life.
Dred?
My name is Dred Scott. It's been my name my entire radio career. I was in the dorms with the person that Robert married, so I have to blame her for getting me into KCSC. And then after KCSC, worked at a couple of stations in the Bay Area for a few years at KTM and KVRE, which are San Rafael and Santa Rosa respectively. Then I worked at KFOG in San Francisco, and then 91X in San Diego, Westwood 1, which is a syndication company, writer-producer there for about 10 years, and then just about 5 months ago, I moved back up to San Francisco, and I'm now doing evenings at KFOG, so I'm back at KFOG again. And none of that would have happened if it wasn't for KCSC and Ben's wife, actually Ben. I sort of think it was my radio mentor, so here we are.
Anita?
I was at KCSC from 1980 to 1985, and I walked into AIRS also. There was an ad to do voiceover work, and I think Roland was the one who did the ad, and it was for Levi's commercial, not Levi's, it was one of those silly ads, like they wanted to voice like Brooke Shields, like sound like Brooke Shields, and make it sexier, and I didn't know what I was doing, but that was my, and then I think it led to some more activities, and then I met Liz, who was the head of promotions, and I realized that's where I wanted to be, is, helping to promote bands, because I wanted to get more bands to Chico, which led me into the AS Cultural Affairs, and I was really involved with the Associated Students and lots of concerts. And right now I am a music attorney, and I've been practicing law for about 15 years. But for my experience at Chico State, I would have not, been able to get into UCLA law because they don't admit many CSU people. But because seriously, and because of all this experience that I had, and with all the resources that are here, I was able to show what I did with the resources, and so I got a scholarship for being like the most interesting student. So it's because of KCSC and KCSC and Cultural Affairs, and we worked really closely together. Stephanie and I worked together a lot, and these are all my best friends. Like that, today are my 4 closest best friends: Cindy, and Stephanie, and Liz. And I run into Dred every now and then, and Sylvia I ran into way back, and gosh, when you were living in LA, like what's those Street or something? Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's been a long time, and it's really nice to see everyone's faces.
Sylvia?
My name's Sylvia Massey, and I was at KCSC from around 79 to 81. And it was an accident that I started there at all, because I was an art major. So I was hanging out because radio people are fun, and drawing things, and I drew a logo, and I drew some other, made some posters and stuff, and then, but I had a chance to do an on-air shift, and that really changed everything. And I wound up learning to use the equipment, and KCSC is really responsible for me moving into music production, and I had a really good career doing that up till now. It's still going on. I'm currently, I've got to produce, work with some great bands and people, including Tool, System of a Down, Seven Dust, Johnny Cash, Smashing Pumpkins, and Prince, and a lot of other people. So, but I have a studio now, and I'm in Weed, California, and in an old theater, and we're still making records up there, and but soon opening up a satellite in San Francisco, another studio, and I'll be working on that thing. But KCSC is absolutely responsible for my direction in life. Isn't it amazing?
Oh yeah. And a 2-time Grammy winner.
Yes.
Records coveted producer's Grammy. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened yet.
Yes, I like that.
Pam?
I'm Pam Wolf. My middle name is Nova, so I took that for my radio name and went by Nova Kane, spelled with a K. And pretty bad. And I was at KCSC, and I have no memory of anything anymore, and there are a lot of reasons for that. I have 81, 82, or 83, but then I was talking to Sylvia, and she said, no, you were there in 80. I don't know. But I'll tell you, the best years of my life. Like, so much fun, and totally prepared me and got me brave enough to go out there. And I worked at KVRE like Dred, and then I went up to one of their sister stations, KOZT in Fort Bragg. First time I ever got fired for being too political. Surprise! I was so freaked out. I'd never gotten fired before. But you know, I kept coming back to Chico and hanging out with everybody and going back to the Livewire all the time. And everyone said, no, you go. And so, man, I applied like all over the place. I got a job in San Luis Obispo, moved over to Redlands, and then got hired by 91X. It was awesome. Yeah, that was my heyday. It really was. I was there off and on for, I don't know, 13, 15 years. I'd leave, I'd come back, I'd leave, I'd come back. I got to work at WBCN, which was a huge dream for me, and Ben's wife also got to work there. And I worked at another station in Boston. I can't remember the name. Surprise.
Don't judge.
Yeah, stay there. Yeah. And Live 105, and I got to work at the end up in Seattle. In fact, just about 2 years ago was my last radio gig up at the end. And I take Polish and drawn locations, but I totally draw on everything I got from KCSC. Everything. Just being quick, fast, and if it weren't for these people here, like, oh man.
Stephanie?
Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Swengel. I was here from 81 to 85. Music's my passion. I was listening to Devo and the B-52s and cool bands before I even came here. So when I got here, I was like, wow, this beats the theater major I was planning to be. I can actually, take my passion and book bands. Anita and I worked closely together, bringing up lots of shows. We had a night called the Exposure Night at Cabos, and had like the Popo Pies and Jonathan Richmond, the Long Riders, the 3 o'clock, all kinds of fun bands. And was the general manager my last year. Then I went to Europe for a year, and when I came back, San Diego State hired me to book concerts because I had the experience from here. And from there, LA Concert Promoter hired me, so I moved up to Los Angeles and started in the advertising division. I was making $6 an hour. I was sleeping on the floor of my cousin's apartment until I could get enough money to find my own place. And through the struggle, it was just the passion that kept driving me. Got to go to tons of shows, working for Avalon Attractions. We booked the entire West Coast. Created a position for myself there in promotions and marketing. My favorite promotion that I did was for Love and Rockets. I did it with 91X. And I called Cape Canaveral with NASA and figured out a way to get some tickets for winners to see a space shuttle launch. And sent through American Airlines, who was our promotional partner, winners to see a space shuttle launch. So I thought that was really cool. And got burnt out after about 4 years doing that. Went to the East Coast, went to grad school, massage school, worked on a commune, learning organic farming. Thought I wanted to get back into television, doing environmental stuff, moved back to LA, ended up working as a temp, which temping is a great way to break into any industry, and landed at Fox Animation Studios, where I've been for the last 16 years. I'm on the producing team, and I book and schedule all the actors, and so I'm working with agents and managers, just like I was here in college, talking to agents and booking bands, and work a lot with marketing and promotions, because I have that background, and I love it, so thank you.
My name is Toni Smith, and I was at KCSC from 79 to, I think, 86, 85, 86.
there's some gray area in there. I kind of wish I could have gone first. I'm sort of humbled by the resumes that are being conveyed up here. I'm not surprised by it because obviously awesome, talented crew. I think, part of it was the time in history, but I think really it's the impetus of being at KCSC. I think magic happens there, and I think it happens for every generation. So yeah, I was at KCSC from that amount of time. I did work in radio at KFM for a couple of years. I was drawn to KCSC because when I came to Chico, I didn't really know anybody that was into the kind of music that I was into, which was punk rock, and then I met Reggie Vomit, and they were doing Tidal Wave, so I worked my way into that show in 1979, and that was my first radio show. And it was great because what Chico felt like this really foreign place, and I felt like I wasn't making a connection with other people that liked what I liked. Let's see, what else can I say about it? We did radio at KFM and got out of radio because I realized it was making me hate the thing I loved most, which was music. Because I wasn't really fit for that style of radio. So I did some organic farming. I did some organic farming, traveling, and then I landed in graphic design. And I think the other thing that KCSC really helped in is allowing me to have the ability to evolve and shapeshift and just kind of take chances and do something different. And I think being able to wear a lot of different hats there and try everything out and really depending on the team to make stuff happen allows you to sort of realign what you want to do, and that's a life skill that everybody would be beneficial to have. So,
Mike?
My name is Mike Cloward. I was KCSC 81 to 86. My first exposure to KCSC is when I took the famed senior high school tour of the campus. And I walked into Ayers Hall and I was like, I'm coming to school here. I was working in high school. I worked at a station called KNGT, KNAC, in Jackson, California. KNAC. Yeah, all automated. But I got to KCSC, it just totally changed my life. My first show was Tuesday at 2 a.m. I followed Pam Wolf. Would show up, Jack on coffee at 2 in the morning, and I just loved every minute of it. I went on a program direct. I had 3 on-air names. I had myself, of course, and I was Rude Boy for a couple of years, and I was Michael Dammers for a couple of years. Around 83, I started a record label called Devil in the Woods, and it was a cassette-only label for a couple of years.
You guys know what cassettes are, right?
And at the same time, as I was doing radio, I got to work with Tom O'Hare for a year in his company called Nichi, and I travel around. And I realized then that I really didn't want to be a DJ or production. I just knew I wanted to be in music. So I stayed with the station until I graduated from college the first time. And I went to LA, worked in television production for a couple of years, but I kept putting out records. And then around 90s, I toured a lot with bands through the 80s. I met a lot of great people, a lot of tattoo artists. Did a lot of tour managing of bigger bands, and it was great fun. I was in a band, made a couple of great records, and it was just fun to travel.
Tell them the band name.
28th Day was in here. Other bands in between that could never get off the West Coast. I did a bunch of crazy jobs through the 90s. You know, I was a school teacher, a sub teacher for a while, substitute teacher, the bar manager. I worked at a paint store. Everything to keep the record label going. And in '98, I was working for a magazine called Snack Cake in Berkeley. And he decided to go to the web in '98. And I said, that's never going to work. Web's never going to work. So the staff came in and said, hey, you must have money. You have a record label, which was a double joke. And so I started a magazine called DIW Magazine. And I just with $1,000, I started a magazine. It just kept doubling every issue. And till we got to around 100,000 subscribers and every 2 months. It was pretty insane. So we had 2 record labels going, Devil in the Woods, Park the Band, and the magazine. And that went on from like 98 to about 2006, 24/7, a lot of travel. And then I got a call, I guess around the middle of 2007, and they said, do you want to sell the magazine or do you want to investor? And I said, I'm selling. And so I sold the magazine and kept putting out records. And then last year, I decided to stop putting out records. And so I did 117 full-length records and a bunch of 7-inches. And now I work for a media company. We do turnkey magazines and 33 different online magazines, and I'm their sales manager. So I'm still in it, but music lives in an upside-down triangle for the last 5 years. It's just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I was the indie label, and bands that I like to sign don't need labels. They need people to tell them what to do so they don't lose money. And so that's what I do now. Because I talk to a lot of bands, and I work a straight job. And like, yeah, square, it's like boring. But KCSC was so super important to everything. It just set the course for me. I wanted to be there. I was really super lucky to work with, Pam Wolf and Roland West and Dennis Tumare, Dennis Perry, and all these great people that taught me this is what I wanted to do. I just knew I didn't want to be on air. I just wanted to be in music, but it just set the course, the work ethic, and pounding down, and just knowing I'm not getting paid for any of this, but it's an amazing experience. When I took my first job in LA, TV production, the first thing he said was, Chico State, oh, the party school. And then he goes, well, look at all this experience, and he hired me on the spot. So it's, go to school, get a decent grade point average, but definitely get hands-on experience, because that is so important. And KCSC was a huge part of that. I met so many people, and those exposure nights, we opened up for a lot of those bands that played exposure nights, and I got to meet all these people, and it all about 5 or 6 years later, I'm in LA, and I'm hanging out with all these people that I knew. So it just all tied in. It was like a magical period of time for my life and my development. So anyway, stick with it. It's important.
Pete?
I'm Pete Beck. I was on air from 82 to 84 under the name of Mr. Spot. I came to the Livewire mainly because of this guy, because I met him in the dorms, and he was doing one of those caffeine-fueled 2 to 6 a.m. shifts, and he was like, come on down, keep me company. and that night coming into the studio was a total eye-opener. I had never been inside the studio. I've been in bands for many years. I've been inside recording studios. I thought I knew the ins and outs and all that stuff, but it wasn't until I actually came to the doors of KCSC I realized it's like, oh wow, this is something I could really enjoy doing. Unlike pretty much everybody here at the table, once I graduated from Chico and moved on, I'm the only person here who didn't make his living in music, as I ended up doing a whole string of completely different jobs. But one of the things that KCSC really taught me is to believe in yourself and that you can do it. I mean, you really can stand up yourself, and you really can, if there's something you really want to do, you can go out and do it. I guess I should mention about this. There's record labels websites for DIW Magazine, Devil in the Woods for 5, 6 years.
Put it up in like 97 or 98.
Yeah.
We only had like 2 different choices of colors in the background.
And it was either Netscape 3 or IE 4 or something.
Wait in line for the 56K motor at Best Buy.
Learning all sorts of historical events.
But then, anyway, that's about. Oh, I guess one thing I got. And one other thing KCSC did for me is I met my wife at KCSC also. She was doing news back in 83, I think it was, something like that. And I had just done some promo in the broad room, and I was like, I came out and I wanted to show it off to somebody, and she was the only person in the stage. I was like, come here, you gotta hear this. And that's how I met my wife Erin, and we celebrated 25 years together last month.
Wow. So what I'd like you guys to all think about now, and maybe share with everybody, is the specifics of what you learned at KCSC, how that applied to the generation of actually earning money, how you created the career behind it. And for example, Ben, and your extensive programming background and working on all these different radio stations, what you learned at KCSC and how you generated that, how did that work?
It all goes back to KCSC, and that's why we're all here. It had such a profound effect on us. I went from KCSC to a place that a lot of us did at the time. We went up the hill. We went to a radio station that Jeff Craigle and Ron Woodward, former KCSC people from the 1960s, started, and it was a great opportunity because all they really hired was former Livewires, so it was a chance at that time to go up there and continue doing that. For me, all I've ever really tried to do was recreate that magic that happened in that very brief period of time at KCSC. From KFM, I went on to KOME, and the only reason I got in there was because a former KCSC person, Lori Roberts, happened to be there, and she walked the demo in to the program director. And so it was another KCSC thing that happened. It was another connection to keep building on that. From KOME, I went to KROQ in New York, and it was huge, and it was great, and it had larger than life personalities, Howard Stern. And I started as a jock there and ended up being APD because when I got involved in KCSC, I was always much more interested in how the radio station sounded than how I sounded. And I figured I was going to see how far I could get as a jock and try to make that transition into programming. And did that in New York, and then turned that into going to DC. And I programmed WHFS in Washington for 12 years, and that was probably the closest that I've ever seen of that KCSC magic. We had a real music revolution that was going on at the time, and we had all of these like-minded people together, and it was a larger stage, and we did really big events, and we did 90,000 people and sell it out in 2 hours. And I remember standing at the foot of the stage, looking out at this whole big mess of humanity and thinking, this all goes back to Children's Playground Park. We did a Battle of the Bands, and it was the same idea of let's see if we can do it, and let's try to get all of these people together. And I think KCSC was really different because we were all big music fans, and I think it was all really important to us that we wanted to be cool. But I think we also wanted to be popular. And I think it was that just trying to get people together and play music for them or get them excited about anything has always kind of been the thing. AOL, I designed streams for them, and it was kind of the same thing that we did at KCSC, which was make it up as we went along. Nobody told us how it was supposed to be, and we just invented things as we happened. And my last stop radio-wise was KCBS in San Francisco, where I was the marketing director, and it was the world's first radio station, and we celebrated 100-year anniversary. And I did events there and found that working with Bill Clinton was not that different from working with Rage Against the Machine.
Seriously.
It's the same thing. Did I answer your question? Probably not.
Well, it obviously created your career from...
It did, and the other thing that I'll just say that with KCBS, it hit at a time where radio is just not what it used to be. And a lot of the fun was taken out of it, and I hit this point where big CBS layoffs were happening like they were happening with everyone, and I looked around and thought, wow, every one of my contemporaries, except for Dred, every one of my heroes no longer works in this business. And I thought, wow, I can read the writing on the walls. And sure enough, I was a part of that and was really comfortable with that part of it. And I kind of concluded at that point that that's it, radio's been great, I've done everything I've wanted to do, and it's time to do something completely different. And ironically, at the same time, my wife, who had a great career in radio as well, has started making the transition into video. And then we did the sensible thing that two unemployed people with two kids in college do, which is we bought a vineyard. There's a farming theme going on. And that was fine, and I was done, and then this job listing popped up for an operations manager in Chico to oversee 4 radio stations. And I thought, no, I'm done, I'm not gonna do that. And I was wrong, because I'm doing that now. You know, and I'm back, and radio is really different, and it's different in Chico, but I'm still having fun with it, and I work with Z-Rock here, and I get to work with the kids, the 30-somethings, and I get to play really obnoxious, loud music, which is really my passion. And we're also #1 2554, so go figure. And I have an adult hit station and a rhythmic CHR and a classic rock station where Ron Woodward is my program director. And he gave me my first job way back in the day. And we have a very small staff, and yet they're all in there punching every day. And I like to think that we're doing it the KCSC way. And that's kind of a thing that they hear from me a lot.
Great. A lot of people have strived really hard in their careers, and then even though they try, they get fired, they get laid off, things happen. So whoever would like to speak up about this, can you please share how you handle those kinds of situations?
You become familiar with the California unemployment.
Yeah.
And you always file immediately.
But what do you do in your downtime? How do you survive? What do you do?
You know, you try to find things maybe that are ancillary. I did writing and producing. It's tough. You have to have faith that something else is going to come along. You have to keep trying, sending out demos and whatnot. It's a lot easier now with the internet. You used to have to actually make like a reel-to-reel or a cassette that you would send with. They had this thing called mail. And now you can just make a demo in MP3 and send it out, and it's a lot easier to apply. It's kind of more impersonal because you send it out and then 9 times out of 10 you don't hear anything back, and you say, okay, I guess that's that. But I don't know, maybe other people can address what to do. I just kind of stuck in there during the hard times, got some unemployment literally, and did odd jobs and tried to keep my hand in, maybe doing weekends somewhere, until the next opportunity came along. But it's like a sine wave. There are uptime in the business of show. There's uptimes and there's downtimes, and you have to learn to deal with rejection, which I don't very well, and I just roll with it.
Anita, what were you going to say?
I was going to say you have to diversify and be an all-rounder. And I run like 3 labels on the side. I have a studio with my husband Roger over there, and we produce records. We build assets. We have catalogs of songs. We do business with a lot of different people. I also do music consulting for film and TV, so I do a lot of licensing for films to get their music into the films. I do a lot of different things besides record deals, because record deals kind of went away. There's not that many. This week, all of a sudden, I'm closing 4, and it's like, man, I haven't done that in 9 months. But all of a sudden, okay, I'm in the record business at the moment. But if you asked me 6 months ago, okay, I'm in the middle of just this film, trying to close this film out and be finished. So you kind of have to have a lot of different skills. I learned everything: event production, marketing, promotion, radio, just like everything that you could get your hands on, every kind of experience. You can get it because you're going to need to use it when something's not happening. And the industry, as you all know, is the music industry is having a rough time. And it's funny. My goal is I want to be an organic farmer. Tony's got goats. I'm so envious. She's got goats. Roger, I want to have goats.
What does she want to farm? That's the question.
The great thing about KCSC is there's so many functions within the station that offer so much opportunity. So, I think when I started there, I was like PSA director, then promotions, then music director, and program director. Like I think I did like every job there, which it was really great. Like it allowed me to learn so many different things and wear so many different hats, and I think for me, it really, I have this sort of love of startups, and I think it's because of that, because it's just, I kind of like that energy of, you know, everything's fresh and everybody's just kind of trying to figure it out, figure out how, where their place is and how to move forward and how they can work together. And, I mean, that's really the opportunity you should be grabbing right now, is just trying everything at the station.
There was no
You'll never be in
faculty
another position
advisor.
in your
No
life.
way.
Nobody was involved with that.
And no one's telling you you can't or
Figured it out.
can't do that job. No one's saying you can't be the promotions director, you can't be, you know, you can do whatever you think you want to try.
And you had to apply for the jobs too. It was a pretty heavy interview process, and we had to put together resumes and stuff. Worked before, how to do that, but it was so, you know, real experience. But, and I think all of you are going to agree with me on this, the greatest gifts I may have gotten from there are just perseverance and self-confidence.
I think confidence is
Huge.
I was surrounded by so many free thinkers and at the station, and it's like, well, why can't we? Or let's do this.
Yes.
You know, like, what's the phone number? And we would just start calling and say, let's get this band here, or why can't we do this? And one of the biggest things I learned early on is there's a certain language. You can tell someone who's absolutely out of their environment when they're talking to you, or if you're in their environment, and just having that speech pattern and speaking to people that way, which I learned at KCSC, talking to so many people outside of the station, that it was extremely helpful. But some of the craziest ass ideas I thought of at Chico State and at KCSC, and actually used them much later in life.
do it and ask for forgiveness later.
Absolutely, saying I'm sorry, never ask.
Yeah.
There's these sandboxes where I like to look at them. It allows you to try things that you may never have gotten a chance to try.
We called and I wanted to interview John Light and Johnny Rotten, so I want to make this happen, and we just kept making phone calls until we made it happen, and it was pretty fun. I was blown away because I didn't think it was going to happen, and then all of a sudden we're doing this on-air interview, and I was completely dumbfounded, couldn't say a word. But yeah, it was everything that we thought we were going to do, we would try, and that actually persevered. When the music industry was starting to get smaller, I was like, what am I going to do? And I said, well, I got to start thinking very quickly. And all those KCSC years of doing all those different things, you know, bombarding the campus with crazy flyers and stuff. At 2 o'clock in the morning on my skateboard, you know, just all that stuff, underground, all the underground newspapers and all that stuff we did. All those lessons that I learned by mistake, for the most part, was actually paid off. You know, I've learned everything by mistake, which is really kind of a nice way to do it.
You know, something I wanted to say though is I wanted to say don't give up. Sometimes you have to move to a place where you don't really think you're going to be doing. You can't recreate like what we did back at KCSC. I ended up being a talk show host for a while down in Palm Springs, and still trying to be on the air. And the weekends you just do whatever you want to do and try to always make. I mean, we just never recreated what was happening at KCSC. It was really, really wonderful. Everybody here is. It's definitely, you get a chance to try everything if you want to and take advantage of it. Being able to have bands come in and talk with us on the air, and then just, it's just one of those kind of magical places.
Yeah, don't give up.
Yeah,
Right,
perseverance.
because everybody, even my parents, and I'm sure you've all heard this, you're majoring in what? You want to be a what? That's never going to happen. And I even heard that from teachers. I mean, I just kind of got it everywhere. And everybody at KCSC was like, oh no, you're good, you're good. Yeah. But it turned out I did learn to be good, you know, and it was from everything I got from that radio station, from the people there, and I just persevered. I never gave up, never. And even when I moved somewhere new, I'd apply for a job in radio there, like WBCN. Oedipus would not take my calls at all. So someone, I don't remember who, but someone from KCSC said, this is what he's into, buy that for him. And sent it for as a gift. I was like, oh my God, that's such a good idea. Got an interview, got hired.
Play the game.
Totally, give stuff.
So speaking of trying to get on the air, what advice would you DJs give to would-be DJs? What would be your steps? What's your advice? What?
Internships.
And so how do they get an internship?
You pick up the phone and you make a call.
Yeah, you keep calling until they tell you to go away or they hire you.
Right. right.
Sounds like perseverance over and
Yes.
over again.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember the professor, I'm sorry, not on the panel, but I'll throw it in real quick. He had one of the communication professors had a business card folio of radio stations up and down the coast. And I sat with him in his office, and he just went, picked out a card, found the station I'd be good at, and gave him a call. In half an hour, I had the internship.
You have a good voice for radio.
Nice.
But there might be somebody like that still today. There might be a professor who still has this contact.
So the idea is to put together something that's easy for people to hear. And it's more about how you are able to sell yourself. So if you have a hard time talking about yourself or selling yourself, think of yourself third person. And being somebody that you want to, like your best friend that you want to help them get a job, how would you help them? And if you approach it in that way, you're not so emotionally involved, it makes it easier for you to reach out and try and get it for yourself. And that's what I have found a lot of people have problems with, is standing up for themselves, saying I can do this, and I am good at this, and this is what I do. Remember the passion. Focus on what that is for you, and you won't fail. Each one of these people have had a successful career in something they've been passionate about, even if it's organic farming, guys. And I see this state. It's amazing. Now, Sylvia,
Yeah.
you have had an amazing career.
I had some things to say about that, getting the confidence to go in to a place you want to get a job, and just, you have to really just go right up to whoever's at the front desk and hand them a resume. I know that today it's easy to just to push a button and send out a bunch of resumes out to 100 different radio stations or studios or wherever you're trying to get a job. But I honestly think that it's more important to go in person, even if you can't get past the front desk. And you can make an impression right there. Either that person is going to take your resume and put it right in the trash if you're an asshole, or they'll make sure it gets to the right person. And for instance, the way I got into my first studio in LA, I went to LA thinking I was going to conquer the world, and I tried to get a job at a dozen different studios, and the door was shut on me. So I worked at Tower Records in LA. Yay. On Sunset. And I worked but I was at the information desk for a long time, for a year anyway, and during that time I was trying to think of ingenious ways to dress up my resume. And so I created a fake newspaper that had a headline that said, the evil Elvis has taken Sylvia hostage, and only you can save her by giving her a job. Because at the time, Elvis had been cited in a Burger King in Michigan. So I stapled that to the resume, and I walked into the same studios I was trying to get a job at, and I was working with Barbra Streisand and Phil Ramone the next day. It was incredible. So you just got to be persistent. I really think you need to walk in and meet the person at the desk, because they're going to be the person that will take your resume to the right person.
Also your friends, because we were all friends, and we all hooked each other up. All of us who were in the concert side, and so I said this in a class, I actually got the guest lecture this week for the music business class. They have a whole music business program here, by the way. And that was the thing. There was this huge audience of kids. It's like, you guys should be networking with each other, because you guys are all going to come up, and you need to stay in touch and help each other, because you might go to different markets, but you're going to reconnect if you're serious. This is going to be your support system.
That's true.
So I'm really grateful for the support I had from everybody who's here.
And
I hit up everybody. I hit up Roland to try to play music. I did. You don't remember, but I did.
I remember, Anita. Everywhere I landed, I remember something from you.
Oh, that's fun.
I was going to add that your network, your community of friends, what Anita is speaking to is so true. Working in film and in television, the people that move together as teams are the ones who are getting the paid jobs. And if you don't know those people, you're not going to get in. And it doesn't matter what you've done, but if you can get in with a good group of people and kind of journey together, that's how it works. It's all who you know. Because
So-
like they were saying, there's 1,000 resumes coming through, and nobody's reading any of them. It always comes from someone you know.
And another thing is that you can work in periphery jobs that will bring you to that goal. You know, you may have a certain job that you want. Well, if you are working in the shop down the street from the place you want to work to, you're likely to meet the right people, and, you know, whatever it takes. You just got to make yourself available.
So Stephanie, this question might be good for you. It's from Heather Young. She's a communication design and media arts student. And she is asking, when getting into television industry, what are some suggestions to land a job in front of the camera?
As an actor?
I intern at KHSL Action News now as a reporter. So more along the lines of reporter or anchoring. I do minor in theater performance, so that is something that I have touched on before.
Public access television. You can create any kind of show that you want and be on camera. I think writing and producing go hand in hand, and getting into a TV station that way so that they can get comfortable with you and see that you're smart can then bridge you over to the on-air talent side. People, you don't just start there because those are high-profile positions. You have to earn it. So having those other skills and getting into the station that you want to work at, or the format, you know, news versus sports versus entertainment. I would go work for one of those companies and start off as an assistant even. Just get in the door. Once you're in the door, you can make magic happen.
Now, radio was vastly different when we were on the air, back in KCSC in the 80s. It has evolved, technology has evolved, and it has become vastly a different animal, as Ben was saying. So with that in mind, what do you guys think the future of KCSC is? This is from Kyle Katsumis, a communication design and media arts major. What do you guys think the future of KCSC is based on what we've already grown and seen? What do you think?
It's gotta continue to be a beast. You just can't put it down. And it's not like they haven't tried. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, talk about resurrections. Dang.
Wasn't there a lot of news recently about them trying to get a terrestrial on-air signal, and they were doing that or something?
We tried.
I don't think that's all that important anymore.
No.
Not with the internet, yeah.
I think
Internet's
internet and
Right.
broadcasting is really what should be focused on anyway.
What about satellite radio?
Satellite radio?
I heard that there's a big group of KCSC people, like over 100 people here, and I think there is some support for them in the AS. I mean, I met with John Slaughter, and he gave me that impression from the AS. John Slaughter, he used to be doing publicity for the AS when I was a concert promoter at the campus, and so he was like the first person. I walked in here on Monday and hung out with him and caught up, but he said that there actually is quite a bit of support, and there's going to be some new positive changes for the station. And I think what I told the music class is like, you guys should all be networking together. All you guys could be a whole team of people, and you know, with the numbers is the power, and you make a big scene here in Chico, and you know, that's what bands do. That's the band system. You make it, do something that gets attention in a regional area, and then people pay attention, and then the next market will respect you because there's something going on here. You came from something that means something, so you can jump out. But if you guys all are individual, separated out, it's a lot harder, or it's like you just came from your who, what, you know. But Chico, you have to make a reputation for yourselves. And you should do it as a group and work together. You may all have different tastes in music. We all totally did. You know, there were definitely factions of, you know, I like this kind of music, that kind of music, or the other. But you still should work together. I mean, I was a buyer for a lot of music, and I bought, you know, I don't like hip hop, but I bought things like De La Soul and, you know, Ice-T, and it's like, But you know what? You got to do it. You got to do the things that you don't like, and to keep a community, and also, I mean, that's how I kept control of a market, so that no one could compete, is to buy everything so no one could get their hands on it. So you guys could do that as a group in Chico, and like, there's bands all over the place. And I talked to one of the key bands, and they don't even know who the other bands are. And there's house parties going on, there's things going on in this town, And there's, you guys should all be, you got the internet, my God. You got the internet. We didn't have the benefit of that, but we all did really cool house parties. We had cool bands. We were all tied in as friends. My favorite people, yeah, they, you know, unfortunately, one of them died. I didn't even know, 2 of them died. And I just found out coming here, because I just joined Facebook for this event.
Yeah.
So anyway, you guys are, you know, you need to work together, build that community. And, you know, everything about the internet is community. I mean, my God. So do it here on the campus in real life. And then you guys will have, like, say, oh my God, Chico State, that's a place where all those people are cool who came from KCSC, who won these awards, who did this, who did that, who broke this band, who brought this band to town. And bands will talk about it and say, oh, Chico was the greatest time I ever had. It was so fun. You know, I remember being at that party. Cynthia remembers Sid, whatever the Long Riders dude. It's like, you know, she stayed in touch with him long afterwards. But, you know, the Long Riders, we were at a party hanging out with them at, you know, I didn't even remember where, but I saw pictures, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about that. But,
Roland,
Yes.
so I want to ask you something. Being in the record industry, the label itself, how does college radio influence your job, your career, or your company?
It's changed greatly. We're talking 30 years ago when I was here at KCSC. College radio, we had at a major label, had very, very small departments of people who talk to college radio, unfortunately. College radio, I think, needs to reach out, be incredibly proactive to get the attention of a major label in terms of support, whether even if it's CDs or MP3s or whatever at this point, you know, you need to raise your hand and be active. My vision, I think, for KCSC, going back to, like Scott quipped, that we had to hand out flyers, or we had to go to dorms and talk people into plugging the cable into their radio, just to get people to listen. Give away cookies, whatever we did. Being over the air, I think, was probably more of a priority then, but I think now, especially with the internet, it's completely a waste of time for you to worry about that. You know, it should be building something that everyone talks about in Chico, whether on campus, whatever, going back to what Anita said, in terms of whether it's house parties or things you're doing, you need to create a buzz so people, when they are online, are listening to you. That would be, I would think, the biggest concern.
So what can they say to you to get you to listen? What can they do to actually influence you in some way?
Well, I think it goes back to persistence, whether we're talking about getting an internship or a job, whatever, being persistent. The labels are out there, there's ways to get a hold of them easily via, you know, email, their websites, and countless other ways. If you're persistent and keep hitting up promotion or marketing people, you'll get the product you'll need, you'll get some posters, stuff like that. It's entirely possible, but you know, you need to be persistent, because there's a million now, whether it's college or internet radio stations that people got, you know, working in their back cubicle or whatever. There's so many people out there now to expose music. You just have to really be proactive.
So what would the radio station be able to do to make them stand out to you?
Well, I think, unfortunately, coming from the perspective of a major label, we look to sales, and Chico's one of these markets not in. And my friend Tim Thompson can probably actually speak best to this than even I. It's a market that the major labels, you know, you're not going to see a lot of sales blips or any real reason for us to all of a sudden, hey, whoa, they're selling Chemical Brother music here, or whatever the case may be. So I think you're in a hard position.
Tim, do you want to say anything?
Well, it was hard, as Roland said. I mean, we would of course check what was going on in the stores. We would look at the playlist. We always look at the playlist because we want to be able to acknowledge, at least from my aspect, it was the college reps. You know, they were calling, they were sending these packages out. They were hoping they weren't going to go into the used bins at the stores. They were actually going to go into the, you know, into the on-air booth and actually get played. And every once in a while, you would call and you'd see a blip at Tower Chico. You would call Underground and you would say, you know, or I would call the one-stops who would supply all these independent record stores with people like Bill Smith and such, and I'd say, you know, what happened this week? Why did you guys suddenly pump out a lot of this record? And we would hopefully pin that on college radio so that, you know, the pressure would be on there to still keep supporting these stations and saying, look, it's not thousands of records, but it's a start, it's a trickle. Even if these people hear it and they got to come down to the Bay Area to see these acts, you're just going to open up an avenue where they can at least have another place to play, maybe on that next tour.
Hey Tim, we had a great coffee chat this morning. You shared something that was incredible about how you got that job at Sony. Could you share that with people?
Well,
That was a great story.
Well, one of the things that I always laugh at is I went into an interview. Well, first of all, the guy who was giving up his job, I had started working for Channel 40 out of Sacramento, but they were becoming a Fox affiliate, and that whole staff was going to go into part-time. Because once we became a Fox affiliate, it was all going to be all the stuff that Fox wanted to show. So I went to work for what was called Handelman, which was a rack jobber, and you actually went and put records into Sears and Kmart's, and I did that for a while. And it was a good job, but there was a guy on the staff that they brought out from Atlanta. He was a nice enough guy, but here he bought, we gave him a bunch of Iron Maiden, co-op dollars and all these things, and he went and spent it all on country radio. And the people at Capitol were just so incensed about it. They were like, why would you do that? And he was because, you know, somebody from the country station took him out to lunch that week, so he gave it to him. So I said, well, I won't make that mistake. And I promise you, if you give me that position, we'll write spots, we'll get it all in, and you know. And I think that's one of the things I learned the most at KCSC, with joining the production staff. And it was Roland, and it was Alan, people that, you know, it was one thing to take your card and go play it for the client. You know, you made a spot for them, you had to go over to the phone and plug it into the card deck and play it for them. You hoped that they liked that spot. But even before that, I had to go play it for Roland and Alan. And they were you know, this can be better. You can be better here. This edit is sloppy. And we would go back in and re-splice it and redo it. We would recut a tape that we didn't mumble over. And I can remember...
And when you say re-splice it, he means with a razor.
I can remember coming back, S&S Produce. You know, I must have cut that spot 3 times, but the third one was the charm. They liked it, but more so Roland and Alan liked it, and they let it stay in the on-air. But I do remember that when I went and continued classes here at Chico, I would, you know, everybody would say, well, you haven't taken broadcast. And I said, okay, well, give me a piece of tape, I'll cut it right now, let's do it. And I, you know, I would sit and write spots for people. When I went to Channel 40, that was one of the first things they had me do, was do all the bumper cards. You know, Big O Tires, now in Branch Cordova. You know, that was really odd. You know, here I am. I'm supposed to be doing TV and manning a camera, and they're sending me into the booth, and you know, here's 20 bumpers we need you to go record. And I would go card them up. But I truly, that's one thing I loved about KCSC was working in the production staff and creating spots that people actually liked and the clients liked.
What years were you at KCSC?
I was there from 1980. I was actually at school from 79 until 84. I was always envious of Roland and Bill Monroe because they were actually in the dorms and at KCSC. And I was just like, wow, man, that's so hot. And then next year, we listened to it. We listened to Adele's show every afternoon, right after school. No Brady Bunch reruns in our household. It was Adele. And there was a point where I think she was having a bad day, and she actually called us up for a request. And we went down there, and Pam, we started talking to Pam, and she said, you know, Thanksgiving's coming up, and we're going to have a lot of on-air shifts open up. Why don't you turn in a comp tape? And I remember my friend Chaz Nielsen, we went home, made comp tapes, and I was on the air a couple weeks later. I do remember that, like, I came in, I was supposed to fill in for Rich Reiners, and Bill Smith was getting off the air, Phil A, and I was nervous. He watched me, my hands shaking. I'm trying to cue up my first record, and he stayed.
And Tim, what was your on-air name?
There were 3 of them. The first one was Binky the Wonder Squid. My second one was Johnny Bravo, which I got from a Brady Bunch rerun. And then, gosh, what was the third one? I think the third one was one we just joked around. I now jokingly go by DJ Has-Been. So. Not because it's great, because it looks so bad on a marquee.
So can you tell everybody what you do now?
Well, I don't have a music industry job that pays big rent. I work for a child care resource firm. It's a nonprofit out of Oakland called Bananas. They do incredible work. I'm thrilled to work for them. But I also am very blessed that I work for a woman named Bonnie Simmons, who works for KSAN fame. She works with the Bill Graham Memorial Foundation, but she's also one of the key players in the Harvard Strictly Bluegrass Festival, which is held every year in October, first weekend of October in Golden Gate Park, and I'm part of the artist travel coordinator for that gig. And Rory Cox worked with us this year, as a matter of fact. And it's a lot of fun. I see a lot of people that I used to hang around with, like Roland. When I first got laid off from Sony Music, I used to go hang out in Roland's office until he finally asked me to go home.
That's not true.
I was just asking Liz, why isn't KCSC being pumped in here? When we were on the air, KCSC was, that's what you heard when you went into the bookstore here, when you were at the BMU, you heard KCSC. Why isn't that still being played here now? I walked into the bookstore and it's like,
okay, I'm the former general manager before Quinn. I graduated last December. I tried with all my might, and I mean, like, up until the day before I left. And I think Quinn is still potentially even trying. We're just barely finally getting onto campus to where we'll be more of like, we will stay. Like, they can't kick us off campus again. So it's just a matter of getting, they have a contract with some satellite something, and so they can't go back on that, and that's part of the reason. But also because we aren't censored, and they don't like that.
Yeah.
So as much as they fund us, and we do appreciate it, they don't like that we're not censored, and they don't want to play it in there. But it has a lot to do with the fact that they have a contract with satellite radio for some expansive amount of time that's completely unnecessary since they own a radio station. And but I think once that contract is up, I think we're getting the respect now with the Associated Students that it's very possible that they will be able to achieve that when the time comes and the time is right once that contract's up. So I think it's very possible coming up in the next several years. But I did try. They have contracts or something like that. So yeah.
I will say we were approached by Steve Dubay, who is a career step in the bookstore, and he said if we could get something together for him, it's a possibility. But what's kind of holding us back is that we aren't censored. So I guess they're down for having Cheryl Crow, but no F-bombs from KCSC. So once we kind of put it together in a CD that we can produce and look over and put liners in there, that's what will happen, as opposed to maybe broadcasting live. That's kind of something we're a little scared of in the BMU, but no, people have approached us, and there's a lot of support from the Associated Students over the years. Jill did a great job at building that repertoire with the AS. We're just trying to keep it up.
Don't give up.
Yeah.
No, never.
Perseverance.
I was going to add, if I may, that if not everyone wants to be like behind the microphone, but behind the scenes, that's where I'm more comfortable making stuff happen. And I always tell people, since I live in LA, who can ask me about how to get into the industry, is go work for a talent agency. William Morris, ICM, CAA, even a smaller agency, because from there you can sit at a desk and you can try and gear it if you know that you want to be in television or if you want to be in film, because they're completely different worlds. If you want to be on the music side, they rep so many categories. Working at an agency gives you exposure to all those departments. Those are the people who are putting the deals together. They're packaging their clients, their directors, their writers, their actors. And from there, you can go maybe work for a production company because you were friendly with the people calling in who make the TV show House, Or maybe you're an art person and you want to go work on a set, or you want to start writing. It's good to meet other writers and partner together because we hire a lot of writing teams. And I just think agencies are the best way, and if I was starting at this point in my life, that's probably what I would do, is move to New York or LA. If you want to be behind the scenes, and then you can get in that way.
There is an area that we haven't covered, and that's about musicians. and how musicians can try to become successful in the music business. And I'd like to actually throw that out to Mike and Pete down there, as well as Roland and Anita, because you guys are all dealing with it in different ways. And Sylvia, because she was in the Hats. So how would you guys go about being successful? How does that happen for musicians?
Well, the dynamic is changing so rapidly. I took a year off in Germany, worked for a magazine, and came back, and I seemed like I missed the train. Currently, sales don't really exist at the indie level right now. Even the biggest bands like Best Coast, I mean, Beck has only sold like 70,000 records. But the dynamic, if you want to make it as a musician, is about 260 live dates a year. That's all my friends that are touring right now, making a living 260 a year. That's a lot, because there's no more physical sales really. So there's t-shirt sales, and then they're just getting out there and doing it. So the publicists used to be the godheads, but now it's the booking agents, and now you have to get out there and just do it. So as a musician, if you're going to survive as a musician, you have to learn. It's like a job now. It's not like you get signed and you go tour and you hang out. And boy, Milwaukee's awesome. It's not. I've actually said that. Yeah, I'm admitting it. It is. You have to learn everything, and it's like a job. It's like a 10-hour-a-day job. You have to get in. You have to do your own records. You have to basically do your own publicity. Get on Bandcamp. Do the Twitter thing. Do the Facebook thing, and just pound down all the time. And that's what I'm teaching bands to do right now. And I'm sort of been messing with a band and trying to kind of just play with putting out records again. And that seems to be the dynamic. I still have a lot of friends in the music industry. A lot of them have cycled out. The musicians I know are just effing tired. 3 years solid. Guys like John Doe from X. He's crispy. He's just going 260 days a year. And that's including overseas and everything too, so all the travel time and flight time. So as a musician, learn the business from top to bottom and learn how to do your own everything. Everything from PayPal to Twitter to Bandcamp to everything, and then forge your way. And one thing I want to circle back around, what was awesome about Chico, at least when I was here, is that there was nothing between Sacramento and Portland. Nothing. And there would be amazing bands that would come through here. I remember one time Volcano Suns, they blew an alternator out in Woodland, I think, and they ended up in Chico. They get a new part, and we had them at Duffy's. Or all the times Nirvana played here before they were even big, and all the bands, and we got to meet so many people. And something that KCSC should think about, because you were talking about the future of KCSC, using that unique position in just the lay of the land. KESP would be something to think about. And there's also another website called Daytrotters, and Daytrotter is in the middle of nowhere in Illinois, but they're by a major freeway, so you could actually have lots of bands stop in the studio and make a name for yourself very quickly. Hey, there's a stop. There's Chico. You get $300 to play, but you'll get tanked and you'll sleep on a floor with someone really nice. I met so many bands that way. When the replacements were here, same thing. Where'd they go? They went over to our hectic house over on East First Avenue, was partying with us until 4 in the morning. He'd driving Tommy around. Where's your fucking hotel? Long ride. So we met a lot of people that way. So that would be your in. It's like, look, there's not a lot going on here, but we have a radio station, we have a club, and we're just damn nice people. And that's how it went for at least 10 years. When the Borough Room's still open, I don't know what's going on here now, because I haven't been here for a long time, but that would be a wonderful thing. Yeah, it would be, that would be an angle to think about. It's like, hey, we can do, bands love to get filmed, bands love to get recorded, and to someplace where you can kick back and relax and play. So think about that. But the music industry, to circle back on that, if you're going to be a musician, you're going to have to work your ass off and write good songs too. You have to keep something in the pipeline all the time. All the time. Every 3 days, every 72 hours. Something on Facebook, something on Twitter, some kind of live video, some kind of exclusive track. In the pipeline all the time.
Yeah, I have a more of a positive look at it, because it seems like
I'm the musician side.
But musicians today, because of the internet, have an opportunity to be self-sufficient more so than they ever have before, because it used to be that bands had to be supported by labels in order to survive and to gain an audience. But I think that bands now can do it on their own, and maybe the age of rock stars are over. Maybe that's over, but individual musicians on their own can produce their own music, market their own music, set up their own tours, and play and sell merchandise and sell their music, and make a good living. I think a decent living. They are working all the time, but I think that this never has happened before, and it's possible now because of the internet. Anita?
I think, yeah, you guys made really good points. You said a lot of everything that needs to be said. But there's such a glut. There's so much to weed through. It's hard to find those bands, and it does cost money, and it's really hard to work 24/7 on music and to have a day job. It's like, how do you do that all? It's not that easy. It's pretty hard, but yeah, you have the tools. I think it's really rough, and you know, gosh. You guys have to really, I mean, I started this thing called the DIY convention, and it was just because no one could afford legal fees. So a friend of mine and I said, let's just do a convention and just teach everybody. Let's put all the lawyers on panels, accountants on panels, everyone on panels, and give these people the information and do it on a regular basis, because we can't, you know, we want to help them, but they can't afford us. Let's do it this way. And it was the DIY convention. And so everything is DIY, and that's why back to and roping into the whole KCSC station, because we kind of moved away from that. But that station, like I was the promotions director at KALX in Berkeley. Now, Berkeley's a little bit more like close to everything, but you know, it still was a little station. And we made a point to, okay, we're going to be in every retail store. Our playlist, what we play, is going to be everywhere, in every retail outlet. You know, in the clubs, our posters are going to be there. Our name is going to be everywhere at KALX. That was my mission. Because whatever I did, it was a mission, like just, and you guys, how KCSC philosophy is, it's your mission to break the coolest new band, to find it and to help break it and be part of that whole movement.
Go Anita.
Yeah, so that's what we did at KALX, and you know, and so the Violent Femmes would come in and hang out, and every band that, you know, the Smiths, everyone who played the Greek, everyone who played it, we knew all the BGP people, we knew every promoter, we knew everybody, every theater who did plays. Whoever did anything creative, we knew them all, we had contacts, we got their information, we traded tickets. We're going to give away tickets for you, we're going to promote you, we're going to do this for you. If you give us tickets and hook up our people, our banner's going to go there, and you do cross-promotion all over, nonstop. So KALX had a really big name. Everyone famous who was cool, all our favorite rock bands would come in the station. We get to hang out with them. It was really, really fun. And you guys, you know, your cause, this is like time to have lots of fun. Place to do it, but it's a lot of work, and you have to be good at marketing and knowing what's at retail. Like, there's not record stores here the way that there used to be, but maybe there's a coffee shop that's the cool hang. You know, get your name, KCSC name there. You know, get your logo there. Do a trade out with the news and review.
Playlist.
Yeah,
because KCSC, you've become the tastemakers here.
Yes.
The listeners are trying to weed through, like Anita said, all this glut of music out there, and so the KCSC has a very important place in that.
And help the local bands. Help those local bands, because they're going to make a name for this town. That's what you guys have to do, is make a name for the town, and you will all move with it. That is the ticket. You have to move as a group.
And you need a virtual community and a real-life physical community, like person-to-person community. And I think the promoting local music and battle of bands, that kind of stuff, really builds the real-life community. You need to have that.
And start that organic forum.
It can't be virtual. It can't be.
Work with the music department. They have that recording studio. Why don't you guys go be involved in making a compilation of the current local bands that are cool that you like, or your, you know, electro DJ stuff, whatever. Make it one of each. Put KCSC's name out. Look what we're releasing. We're promoting the local scene. This is what we like. You guys have to be like really proactive, and then you guys will have a way to get a job, because you can get to be the manager of that band. You know, we already found some super brilliant singer, and there's a kid who's already their manager, and you know, they're in a little, you know, place, their little house and they practice at. But you know, there's real talent in Chico. There's maybe even KCSC people don't even realize it, but you should interact with the other students who are, you know, in the music, because I'm surprised how much you guys don't all know each other.
And there's always going to be talent in Chico, because there's nothing else to do. You have to be creative. shit's gonna happen here.
I think it's also important to point out that nobody in here at this table got put together by the university. We all basically did this ourselves, and we believe in ourselves, and we put together a kick-ass station. And you guys can do the same thing too. I mean, there's nothing stopping you. I mean, we did it because we loved it, and we believe in ourselves, and we went out and just did it. You know, you guys can do it too. Believe in yourselves, and it will follow.
House parties, they're really fun.
So, Roland, is there anything you want to add to that?
Well, you know, I'm kind of the end product guy in regards to working for a major label. I promote to the Pacific Northwest. I get the stuff that the A&R department's already channeled out to us on the field. But no, what they said, I think, I've never worked with a band that also had a second job. You know, like, we're not taking on someone who's kind of halfway into it. Anyone who's a musician and wants to be in a band, that's got to be your whole job. That's got to be what you want to do. People who fall into that category will make it because it's a passionate thing you want to do. Those are like half-ass, oh, but I also have a wife and a kid, and you know, I got to pay rent. Sorry, it just rarely ever works out. But that band you ever hear about, unless they're playing at the Bear and they're covering the Beach Boys or whatever. I don't want to be a coward, but I mean, that's an end product guy. That's where I see it. And going to Mike's point, I've worked with lots of new bands. When we sign a new band, they're on the road all the time because it's about making impressions in every city that they play with, opening up, being the third act as an opener, whatever it takes, but constantly being on the road, building a fan base, whether it's Facebook or countless other ways that you can amass and show to a label or whoever you want to show how many people have heard about you, know about you. That's what modern A&R is looking for. They're not going through a million different MP3s to hear something they haven't heard before because they don't have time. There's no way to do it. They're looking for blips out there on the radar screen of something that's going on.
Something's already going on. So you
They're
guys
looking
got to
for
get
something's
something
already
going
going
on.
on. You gotta get something going on. House party.
No, serious, that's the beginning, yeah.
I mean, somebody was reminding me last night about that YouTube promotion I did. You guys remember when the Boy album came out? And the Virgin just sold me on them, and I loved them. I thought, oh, this is the next big thing. This is the next big thing. And we did a huge promotion for us, you know, giving away some albums and class and stuff, and then playing the live record. But they were the next big thing. And we were like way ahead of the game, almost all the time.
We got to meet you
Keeping our
two
ears open.
and get their station IDs. We got to go out and meet you two. We went to San Francisco. We went to Sacramento. We went to go see the class. We went everywhere and got them to say KCSC is the greatest station. We listen to KCSC. So you get to go meet your favorite rock bands. I mean, so you can do this. That's what you do. You call it figure out who's at the stage or the record company, in publicity or online marketing, whatever. And
You guys see
get
the
in there.
passion? That's what it takes.
Oh, yeah.
Truly.
And you have
What
to
it
pound
takes.
them.
We only
You
have
get
time
Roland
for-
over there.
We only have time for one more question, guys, because we have somewhere to be at 3, okay?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so, this is from Cami Carter from Communication Studies, that's her major. She wants to know, how does it feel to be back on campus and seeing how KCSC has progressed? How does that make you feel? Anyone? Amen, Carol. I second the old, okay? So how do you guys feel? What's it like?
I don't think it looked any different. We walked in and went, well, it's a lot cleaner when we were here cleaning the station, but it didn't look a bit different to me.
I think it's really beautiful, and I think it's like the new BMU is amazing. This was like a big controversial project when we were here, and now it's like manifested. I heard from the dean there's lots of new developments for things like music and the arts. So there's a really like push for this at this campus in this time, and people are coming here. I met this really amazing girl from Sweden who's here just for the music program. So this can be real. You guys, we didn't have any help. We had no support, no nothing. Like everybody said, we're totally on our own, just whatever, you know, we made it up. But you guys have these like a recording facility here that they put a bunch of money into. I mean, you guys can make records. You could, you know, you have venues all over. You know, you guys hooked up the room here. You know, you hooked up a room. You guys could do it again and put a band in it. You know, you could do these things. It's like, it's amazing. I think it's great for all of your students.
I feel pride and I feel love and just this connection that
I second that emotion.
All in favor?
has such a positive effect on people personally and people within the community. I mean, it's like,
And in
it's
the
awesome.
industry.
Yeah.
We were tastemakers and industry makers and
Rebels.
It always seemed like the anti-frat to me.
rebels.
It was not a fraternity, it was not a sorority, it was a place for like-minded people, and it changed my life. So it's good to be back. I have no idea what you're doing now.
Great
Not
use of
a
your
clue.
taste.
I wish you the best of luck.
All right. Well, we need to wrap it up. Does anybody else want to say anything before we do?
I was just amazed that Rage Liquors now accepts a debit card for
Somebody walked in with their eyes closed. We knew where everything was at.
It's true. Nothing's changed.
In 20 years.
We all are on the Facebook KCSC alumni page, and we have been encouraged by the AS to upload our pictures from this weekend because they do need pictures. And so please know that what you upload you might use. So have that in mind, okay?
And if
So
anyone wants to, contact us, just reach out on Facebook
Yeah,
and
please
send us
do.
a
Music. Anything about music, I got it.
and set up a phone call.
So if you want to contact, that's what we're doing, through Facebook. So much easier now than way back when. So,
Erin's got some shirts to show.
If anyone wants to buy a shirt, they're $15. KCSC anniversary, timeless. So the back has all the old logos you guys might recognize. Anyway, come get them from me. They're $15 each. They know there's extra
water bottle when you leave the room.
so what I'd like to do is just to thank Peter. Where are you, Peter?
He's not here.
He's not here.
He's at the station.
Well, I'd like to thank Peter because without him, we get it. And also to Stephanie and Anita. And then also Quinn over here. Thank you all the staff, current staff of KCSC. Thanks for putting up with us. And also to the Associated Students because, without them, we really wouldn't be here, would we? No. So actually, Stephanie, I don't remember all the details. I'm in menopause myself. So can you run down what the schedule is for today?
We have a alumni event at the Madison Bear Garden from 5 to 8 o'clock. It's free to come inside, and then of course you can buy your own drinks and food. And then at 8 o'clock, we're opening the doors at the El Rey Theater, which is just across the street basically from the Madison Bear. And I'd like to give props to Justin, who was a KCSC alumni that bought the El Rey Theater, and he donated it to us tonight. So it is a fundraiser for the radio station. Doors open at 8. We have a DJ named Ron Dare. He used to be on the air. He's going to spin records. And then we also have Barbara Manning, who was the lead singer of 28th Day. And then we have the nights going on. And the whole show starts out by midnight, so we get early. $5 cover.
All right, thank you all very much for coming.